Australia is a country full of all sorts of different animals. We've got sea animals, land animals, air animals, dogs, maggots, pigs, party animals, and all sorts of other creatures. But out of all these animals and creatures that I just mentioned, there's one that stands out from the crowd and will always be associated with Australia. And that, of course, is the kangaroo. Over the years, there's been many different famous kangaroos, such as Skippy the bush kangaroo, the Qantas kangaroo, the boxing kangaroo, the North Melbourne kangaroos, and of course, this kangaroo on the yellow sign on every freeway. Now obviously, those kangaroos have all had their time in the sun, so in today's video, we'll just be focusing on the kangaroo as an animal. That means we'll be going through some of the kangaroo's anatomy, exploring what kangaroos like to do in their spare time, and going through some of the greatest kangaroo moments in Australian history. Anyway, that's enough waffle, let's get into it. First up, we'll start off with getting into the anatomy of the kangaroo. Kangaroos have big legs, a big tail, and of course a pouch. But that's just the boring stuff, because kangaroos also have razor-sharp claws, the ability to use their tail as a third leg and become a tripod, just like me, and for some reason, pretty much every single kangaroo is absolutely jacked. And that means that kangaroos are absolute weapons when it comes to punching on, jumping, and fighting. Alright, now that you know all the important parts of the kangaroo, we'll get into what they like to do in their spare time. First of which, of course, is drinking. The kangaroo wouldn't be Australia's most iconic animal if it didn't enjoy a bit of beer. And of course, once again, just like its human counterparts, kangaroos love to fight each other, and of course, a bit of destruction of property. But the kangaroo's absolute favourite pastime has to be jumping in front of cars doing 100 kilometers an hour on the freeway. If you've ever watched an Australian dashcam video monthly compilation, it's more than likely that you've seen this more than a few times. Now obviously I can't show it in this video because it is pretty gruesome, but out on country roads this happens so often that they had to design a specific bull bar called the Roo Bar just because of this problem. Even though we've put signs, barriers, speed limits, and Roo bars into practice, for some reason Australia's kangaroos just can't get enough of it.
Surprise, motherfucker!
And due to the fact that in Australia, kangaroos almost outnumber us 2-1, this absolutely stupid pastime of theirs doesn't look like it's going to be going anywhere. But before we move on to our next segment, we've got a little honourable mention, and that is posing for the camera. Believe it or not, while making this video, I've had to spend a lot of time on Google Images looking at photos of kangaroos. And one thing that I've noticed is that they always like to make sure that you get their good side. Alright, now that you're familiar with the anatomy of a kangaroo and are clued up on what they like to do in their spare time, in classic Yorak Hunt fashion, we're going to get into some of Australia's greatest kangaroo moments of all time. But before we get into that, I'm going to go through some epic kangaroo facts. Did you know that kangaroos are native to the outback but can also be found in swimming pools, your backyard, the local pub, random fast food restaurants, the local footy oval, and just about anywhere where the fence isn't that high and they can jump straight over it? Did you know that in all 6 Australian states, it's illegal for kangaroos to drive a car? And due to the fact that they have claws instead of fingers, they are completely unable to click that subscribe button and help me get to 69,000 subscribers, so it looks like you'll just have to do it for them. And according to this highly scientific website, the kangaroo has a top speed of 56 kilometers an hour, which means it's technically possible for a kangaroo to get a speeding ticket in a school zone. Alright, with those life-changing facts out of the way, we'll get into Australia's greatest kangaroo moments of all time. First up, we'll start off with a classic, and one that I've done before on this channel, and that of course is the fight of the century, kangaroo versus this bloke right here. Now I've already covered this in part 2 of the greatest moments in Australian history, so I'll just keep it short and sharp. The gist of this story was that these two guys are going for a drive or something with their dogs, and once they turned this corner, they noticed that this kangaroo had their dog in a headlock. Now, it's pretty common knowledge here in Australia that kangaroos and dogs don't get along. So our man right here runs up to the kangaroo and squares up, causing him to drop the dog and get ready for a scrap. Now, to finish off this story, I'm gonna have to call in some special backup. So fortunately for you guys, I've got myself from 7 months ago to do the talking. Now, kangaroos can be dangerous animals, so he had to get his dog out of this headlock. And that, of course, meant a good old-fashioned Australian standoff. So the two squared up, had a little bit of a staring contest, and as soon as old mate fired a warning shot, Skippy decided to pack it in. He thought to himself, I don't get paid enough for this and bounced off into the sunset. Wow, couldn't have said it better myself. Make sure to subscribe to that guy's YouTube channel. Next up, we have what is quite possibly the greatest kangaroo moment of all time, and that of course is kangaroo versus cyclist. It's no secret that no one likes a cyclist, and of course kangaroos are no exception. As you can see here, Skippy was bouncing along in the kangaroo lane located just off the left side of the bike path, and as soon as he got a whiff of that combination of lycra and swamp ass approaching him from behind, he knew that he had to take action. So after a quick hop, skip and jump, he decided to launch a kamikaze style attack on the cyclist. Now unfortunately, this attempt was fairly unsuccessful and quite pathetic, but while Skippy may be many things, one thing that he isn't is a quitter. So just a little bit further down the bike lane, he decided to launch another attack which was even more pathetic than the first one. Alright, with that pathetic kamikaze out of the way, it's time to get into our next one. Now this one is very short and sharp, but you know what they say, actions speak louder than words. As you can see here, this guy Daxon made a video about buff kangaroos, and just after the opening shot, Skippy decided to play with the wedding vegetables. But fortunately for us, in this short 4.5 minute video, this wasn't just a one-off occurrence, because a couple minutes in, you see Skippy once again get a hand down under. Now this next one doesn't even count because it's not a real kangaroo, but it's still too good to not mention, and that is the Remy Gaillard kangaroo incident. This man right here was playing a game of golf when out of nowhere came the notorious prankster Remy Gaillard dressed up as a kangaroo who would deliver a world-class fly kick, resulting in this golfer ending up in the lake. Now many of you may be thinking that this golfer didn't deserve it, but once you figure out what golf spelt backwards is, maybe he did. Now after watching that, you may be thinking, there's no way that that would ever happen. Kangaroos are nowhere near smart enough or bored enough to ever kick someone into the lake. Well, prepare for your mind to be blown, because this actually did happen with a real kangaroo. As you can see here, this bloke and Skippy are hanging out next to the lake, when all of a sudden, Skippy decides that this bloke needs to go for a swim. Skippy plants his third leg firmly on the ground before raising up his front two legs and sending this poor dude to Davy Jones' locker. Now unfortunately, this video is only 13 seconds long, but you know what they say, it's not all about length. Now due to the fact that this video was filmed on a potato, is short and sharp and filled with action from start to finish, in my eyes this is the single greatest kangaroo moment caught on video. And on that note, it's time to end. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, subscribe, comment and share if you'd like to hear more teachings from the Prophet of Yorak Hunt. And if you enjoyed this video so much that you watched it right till the end, make sure to comment to let me know.